A very good day to all of you. As Sergey said, I am Anshuman Nayak. I'm a principal engineer with the growth team at Disney Streaming Services, which is the streaming business for the Walt Disney Company. Today, we'll talk about, I'll give an overview of growth engineering. What exactly does the responsibility of growth engineering in a streaming business? Um, and why we made a lot of investments around like looking at the code and refactoring it for scale, and then what are the challenges we faced as part of that, and then talk about some patterns that we learned as a result of some of those exercises that we did, right? Hopefully share some learnings and takeaways. So the user growth, right? So Disney Streaming is a pretty recent player in the streaming business, right? So we launched about 2 years back, and when we did that at that time, we were projecting between 60 to 90 million subs in 5 years, right, from 2019, and that was mimicking the growth of some of the other streaming services, right, out there, right? So that's where we were, right? But happy to say, or our projections were completely wrong, right? And we were like pleasantly surprised and really quite humbled, I would say, by the actual numbers, right? So on launch day, we were at 10 million signups, right? And then very quickly, across the various quarters, we grew pretty fast from 2850 to now almost 116 million subs as per the last earnings call, right? so so that's like a quite a huge growth, right? And that growth story led us to kind of look back into some of our services and figure out what are the things we need to do to handle the revised projections, right, that we have, right? And that's basically the, like what was the driving force for some of the changes that we had, right? So when we are talking about especially growth engineering, it's not only most of the challenges are not only limited to subscriber growth, right? Like as the number of subscribers, new subscribers are there for your platform, but it's also as we like launch in various new geographies, right, of the world. How does a lot of the challenges that are there when you launch like in new countries, right? There are a lot of challenges around currencies, local currencies. There are local partners, right, who understand that region well, and you can use them to sell your product, right? And what does it mean to do that? They're local payment providers, right, that you have, and what does it mean to integrate with them so that you have a good sign up experience for your customers? There are a lot of challenges. It's not a simple push button to launch into a new region. So what does that mean to growth engineering, right? So those are some other discussions. So, so what exactly is, at a very high level, what exactly is growth engineering, right? Growth engineering in Disney Streaming, it's responsible for customer acquisition and retention, right? What does that mean, right? Customer acquisition is how do you get, how do you show the right offers, right, or the right products or right content to the users, so that they can sign up and become paid subscribers. And that's like a key vehicle of growth, right? It's not only new users, it's also existing users. How do you show them new how do you upsell to them, right? How do you get them to buy new products, right? And that's where the offer domain is responsible. And then you have you're a subscription business, right? So what does it mean to that you have different users who are in the different life cycles of their products, right? They have bought the products with various offers and are at various stages, right? So how do you manage their subscriptions and how do you find the right invoice for them, right, based on the invoice date, and then how do you help them move the money around, right, like actually charge the payment methods, get the money, and doing all of that like repeatedly, for almost 100 million plus users on a monthly cadence or whatever cadence it makes, you are signed up for. So all of this is quite challenging, right? And doing it for scale so that there is predictability and there is good customer experience, right? So that we can retain our customers, right? Is what growth engineering is responsible for, right? Also, like in this particular slide, at the left, you have all these various clients and devices, right, which where you can watch Disney Plus, right? So it talks to the edge layer to a lot of these growth engineering backend services, and at the right, you have a lot of these third-party partners that we integrate with, right? So sometimes we use, as we go to various countries, we use some of these partners to help us sell our products, right? And these could be the Apple stores and the Roku stores of the world, or they could be local partners like Comcast and Verizon or Canal in the various countries, right? And in some cases, we are the source of truth, like what products to sell, what are the prices to charge for the products, and in some cases, these partners are the source of truth, like how have the users signed up with these partners, what are the billing terms, for these partners, right? And both of these systems need to be in sync, right? So that you can enjoy a subscription you bought in your app store in other areas too, right? And the activation domain helps with all of that. So that domain also talks to the edge layer. So at a high level, that's what the growth engineering does at Disney Streaming, right? In the rest of the slide, we'll talk about offer and offer domain, and what are the what are the challenges and how we solve that, right? So how does offer help with growth? So as I said, the one of the key vehicles for increasing our subscribers is to show content and offers which are contextual to users, right? It's something which will make you sign up to Disney Plus is might be different from what excites me, right? So how do you find the best offers for our users, right? So that's where offer domain helps drive that, right? So it's a key vehicle for growth. The other dimension is, as I said, geographies, right? As you launch in different geographies, how do you, how there are a lot of key metadata that the offer domain manages to help with that, and that's again how offer domain becomes a key vehicle for growth, right? It's a subscription business, so what in most subscription business, after some time, you would end up increasing the price of the subscription, right? So and doing that, for like 100 million plus subscribers, has its challenges, right? How do you do that in a predictable way, right? And the offer domain manages the price of the product, is responsible for the price of the product. So there's a lot of involvement that for the growth, right? Growth of revenue growth in this case. So what are the key challenges, right? What are the challenges for the offer domain? And then of course the next slide will be like how what are the patterns we discovered, right? So what are the challenges, right? It starts from like the basic, right? Like the products. What are we trying to sell, right? So when we launched about 2 years back, we had only one product, Disney Plus, right? That's the only product we sell. 2 years now, we have 4 major streaming platforms. We have Disney Plus, we have Hulu, we have ESPN Plus for the sports offerings, and we have Star Plus. Then we have a lot of these on-demand pay-per-view events, right, which people buy, and then all of these theatrical releases, right, which go through Premier Access. So a lot of these products have grown like in 2 years, and they are supposed, like they're expected to grow even further. So how do you scale your systems for each of these offers or products have their own unique needs, their own unique economics. So how do you build your system to scale, right? For a huge influx of these products. These products have their own. They don't not necessarily only give you, entitlement to watch something like a content. You could be, a feature like, hey, whether you can watch ads or do not watch ads. How many streams, right? We have. Can you record some of these? Can you download some of these? There's so many various, other dimensions to some of these product offerings. So that's like, how do you do that in a scalable way? The next is, as you go for multiple geographies, uh, how do you, you have unique requirements for all of these geographies, right? Currency, of course, is very obvious. Like, you have local currencies, but then you have to, you have to show these content and offers to the user. So it needs to be localized, right? How do you manage localization? You could have different payment methods, right? For each of these countries, you might have different authentication requirements, right? Like Europe has strong authentication needs, right? How do you understand all of these? How do you, as I said, you also have different local partners, right? For a country, and you might want to integrate with those partners so that some of the so that you can reach your customers in an easy way, right? And then payment methods, right? So all of these, managing all of these, or the metadata around all of these, is something that offer domain holds. So how do you build a system so that each time you launch or you integrate with a new partner, launch to a new country, you do the bare minimum stuff required, and then you can scale faster? That's another key challenge for the offer domain. uh, Next is, like some of these offerings that like offers that we have. Very often business comes up with very like offers which are, which will help our users sign in. So like, how do you identify like, groups or cohorts of users, right? How do you, characteristic of users, right? And then offers which which these users can sign up for. So how do you do all of that in a way that it can roll out faster, right? So you don't want to have engineering involved in, every time a business comes up with a new way, or a new offer, or and so how do you scale around that, right? That's another important challenge for the offer domain, right? Reducing time to business for these offers. And then, of course, as offer domain is manages price, so the price of the product. So when a price change happens, you often do that in a rolling way, or in a rolling fashion, like do this country first, other country next. Even within a country, you might identify sections of users for which you might not want to increase the price, keep them in the old price for whatever reasons, right? So how do you do that in a scalable way, right? Without as I said, like for the 100 million plus subscribers and growing, how do you do that in a scalable way? So those are, the some of the key challenges. And again, you have a flow called redemptions, right? Like a lot of time when you say buy a device, like or a TV, you might get like a code, like a sign up code which says, go redeem this, and you get a couple of months of Disney Plus free, right? How do you manage the life cycle for all of these codes? A lot of these times, these codes are could be like are amenable for fraud. Like so, how do you detect fraud, and all of these, right? So all of the life cycle around redemption codes, something that again the offer domain kind of manages, right? So we wanted to, again, as I said, we wanted to go back and revisit some of our services to see how we can address some of these challenges in a scalable way, right? And we did that, and that exercise, and I guess in the rest of the slides in this talk, we wanted to present what are the like key learnings that we had, right, around that. The first one is kind of, yeah, we kind of, yeah, we understand, right? Domain separation, right? We should ensure that our microservices are aligned to domain boundaries, right? But often what happens is, as the business evolves, we start, we realize that we start leaking our data models, right? Which are for a domain, right? We sometimes leak it to the interface, and when we do that, anytime you want to refactor or change your service, now you have so many dependencies, and that would be a bad pattern, right? And again, you have domain boundaries which start leaking to each other. So one thing we did is, we took a step back and we said, for the growth domain, right, let's figure out what are the different domain boundaries which make sense. What are the key responsibilities for each domain, right? For example, in offer domain, it was about we are responsible for selling or figuring out what products to sell. So that's product domain, right? We are responsible for the offers. Offers are economics, right? What these products, when you sell them, what are the economics about it, right? So that would be offer economics domain, right? And then we would have domains around, which users are eligible for these offers. So that's the eligibility domain, and so on, right? So figure out the right domain boundaries so that you can scale well, right? uh, Often what we have seen is that the business keeps changing, especially in a fast market. But if you have your domains well, right, if your domains are, they are a little bit more resilient, right? So you can always build business use cases around your domains, right? And that's why it's worthwhile to always take a look back, step back, like every once in a while, to ensure that your domains are still pretty aligned, right? The other pattern was around, we have all of these different microservices, right? And like in the growth domain, you have a lot of these microservices. Now they're the source of truth for some kind of data, right? But for someone who is outside the domain, like all the clients in this case, right, who need data from us, for them to figure out which is the source of truth and how the data are related to each other, it's like it can be quite complex, right? So that's where normally you need a kind of a orchestration pattern which can help keep the abstraction, right? And we looked around and we found GraphQL to be pretty something which we were quite interested with, right? And how GraphQL can abstract out some of these data. It basically can abstract out data and the relationship between data for the clients, right? And it does that while keeping your microservices loosely coupled, which is what we wanted. It was one of the key requirements for us, right? Also, it provides, like, in a lot of time you have all these devices that you have, and each of these devices have their own like sign up flows or flows that they have built based on how much payload they can manage in those devices. So a lot of time the amount of data that is required is also different, right? So GraphQL, through a query based approach to getting data, helps in that process, right? So again, I think the key pattern we really wanted to emphasize is, yeah, I mean, try to have loosely coupled microservices. You need orchestration to help the other clients and domains like understand your data, understand the relationship in your data, and GraphQL helped us. The next pattern was around configuration. This is a little bit, we found was a little bit overlooked in many cases. A lot of times when you have your own domain, like in the growth domain, you have many domain specific configurations, right? And when you have so many of these microservices, it could be a pattern where you start making local copy of your configurations, and when you do that, you pretty much start losing what is the source of truth for simple things, even like what are the payment methods for a country, right? How do you how do you figure some of these things out? A lot of times, when we like, sometimes we also see that when you go to a country, all these different payment methods that you have, even the amount of decimal places, right, you can charge a payment method, like that can that if you have more or less, it can lead to your payments being not authorized, and from a payment method which is local to a country. So how you need a central source of truth for a lot of of these configurations. That's where manage your configurations well. Don't make local copies if possible, right? Some of the other advantages, if you make them central, you can schedule some of these, right? So a lot of times these configurations have to change values in, like, for example, the price changes, right? A lot of time price change happens for whatever reason in the middle of the night, and that's where a lot of these price changes happen. And you don't want to be like awake and doing a lot of these changes, right, at that hour, right? So you want to schedule your changes, right, and this configuration changes, right? So you can do all of that in a smart. Your configurations can immediately become smart, right? And you can, as when this value changes, you can have listeners, like your microservices which care, they can be listeners to the configuration, and they can get a callback when something changes, and then they can interact accordingly, right? So build smarter configurations, right? You might also want to scope your configurations. Like, a lot of times you have configurations which have like a global value, but then a specific microservice might want to scope it to something else, right, for whatever reasons, right? So a lot of these smartness can be built if you have a central configuration. That's again another key learning. Like, if you have to scale, try to not have local copies of your configuration. One of the challenges we mentioned for offer was enabling our business to be creative, right, in the kind of offers they launched. Like for example, a simple offer, a relatively simple offer could be like, if you are a quote unquote student in Brazil with a hold status for 3 months of Disney Plus, and you are still watching, let's say, Star Plus, then maybe give you other incentive, like give extra some extra percentage off so that you can join the service, right? That could be offer, right? So there are two parts of this. One is defining what are the economics of the offer, and when does the offer the values change. The second is identifying the cohort, right, or the group of users who you want to target. In this case, like you have to be a student, so figure out whether you can be a student in Brazil, so figure out the country, figure out your account status, figure out your watch history, and and then build build an offer for you, right? So in the initial days, a lot of times engineering used to be involved in doing a lot of these, right? And that used to not scale, right? That never scale, right? We want our business to be very creative, and as we launch to different countries, some of these can be very local to the region. So that's where the idea was to get into configuration driven, right? And so you have to figure out how to how someone can specify the cohorts or the groups, and then how do you specify the economics in an abstract configuration way, right? And then the role of offer becomes when someone is lands on your platform, you can figure out, like, you can get the characteristics of the user and then evaluate it to see if which cohort or which group they belong to, right? So that becomes like a more dynamic way, a scalable way, right, to approach this problem. So again, always, the key learning is, try to move into configuration driven approach where possible, right? That would help you scale a lot. And that's a key learning we had. Once we did that, a lot of times, we have our business users come in and set up these things, and then engineering doesn't have to get involved a lot. The pattern out here, I call it transitions, but basically it's mostly also to say that our entities, try to keep them immutable where possible, right? There's, like, in the early days, like when we had in this case offer, right, the offer entity that we had, a lot of time people used to go, like, whenever there's something changes, right, we used to go, like a price change happens, right, people can go and change these entities, right? And then and that's how it worked, right? But as we realize that as we have a lot of these offers, as we have like 100 million plus users and their records point to some of these entities, changing making these entities immutable is important, because that leads to traceability, that leads to again scheduling. You can schedule some of the changes, so how do so that would help in the scale for the business, right? So when you have your entities which are immutable, now then the question is, how do you move your user records from one entity to the other entity? And that's where transitions help, right? Where you can now programmatically do all of this. You can say that, okay, if you have these characteristics of the users, and that could be country, date, or their paying pattern, you can identify those users and move them programmatically, so that when the billing cycle comes every month, how much to where the users are, right? So that's what we call transitions. But in a nutshell, it's saying that keep your entities immutable and then find a programmatic way to move your users across across some of these entities, right? So key takeaways, again, to summarize: create microservices. Like, always go back. Don't leak your data models to your boundaries, to your interface boundaries. That will cause issues. Have orchestration, federated GraphQL work for us, to get data, out, or it's required. Manage your configuration centrally, and that has a lot of advantages. Make your entities immutable, and try to have configurations as much as possible. Thank you very much.